You grew up in Connecticut.
Yes.
And you actually, one of the few rappers that say you come from the suburbs and you're proud of it.
Yes.
Was that a little weird in the beginning?
I mean, the way I see it is, in hip-hop especially, it's very important to just be yourself, man, because if you're not, people will see through it eventually, and it will destroy you. And I just chose to embrace where I'm from, and if people have a problem with that, then they're not really listening to the music, and they're not really delving into it and finding out who I am as an artist and a person, and if they're not going to take the time to do that, then fuck them.
What is your take on Iggy Azalea?
Interesting question. I've actually met her. I'm cool with Hustle Gang. She's cool. I don't understand how the Australian accent isn't in her rapping as much, but maybe that's just how she flows. I'm not sure. But I don't know. I think she's come under a lot of fire lately because I think with females it's kind of like the white rapper thing, and she happens to be both, so she's got to deal with both stigmas. But, every time a female rapper rises, it seems like a lot of the others try to drag them down, and the same goes for white rappers. I call it white rapper syndrome, where, and I used to suffer from it as well, where when you see another white rapper being successful, you despise them because you were the only one in your little group, in your crew, in that cipher when you were younger, and it pains to see others make it, but in this day and age, you just got to realize, man, I'm just trying to be positive lately. So, I mean, hats off to Iggy. She's killing it right now. Like, if you're mad at it, just work harder. Like,
I remember asking Immortal Technique what he thought would happen if he went, if he went on tour in Australia and did all his shows in an Australian accent.
Yeah.
He doesn't think it would go over too well. I mean, if you just start, rapping in a different accent, how do you think it would go over?
I mean, you could do it jokingly here and there, but I definitely see where you're coming from. But I don't know Iggy personally. Like I said, I've met her, so I'm not really sure as far as dialects go and how that translates into music. I'm just not really sure. So I wouldn't want to criticize either way. She's doing her thing and can't be mad at that.
Have you seen any of the Lord Jamar interviews about white rappers?
No, I don't believe I have.
He said that white rappers are guests in the house of hip hop.
Yes, and I would have to agree with that to an extent until you've earned your place and you've earned your residency. I understand that. It did not start there, and to have looked at the iTunes charts the other day and to see like 5 out of the top 10 albums were white rappers really made me sit back and be like, damn, like what is exactly happening? It's kind of crazy, and I've always treated it with respect. I realize that I'm a white guy, and it's not necessarily a white guy's game. But I think that if I spend enough time perfecting my craft and genuinely have the love for hip hop that I do, that after I earn enough stripes, I mean, I should be just as welcome as anyone else. You can't tell me Eminem doesn't deserve to be everywhere that he is, So I think white rappers should have to work a little bit harder. I did have to work a little bit harder. It's just how it works, you know what I mean? That's all I know. So nowadays, I feel like certain white rappers, because it's becoming such a common occurrence, are just kind of skipping a lot of the steps that I did not skip and I had to go through. I had to, be at the Pyramid Club in a cypher and have no one pass me the mic because I was the white guy, and I had to literally rip it out of someone's hand so I could get 8 bars in before I left the building. I've been through these things, and I feel like nowadays I feel like the white rapper door is far too open, and we need to close it and really start regulating who gets in. Of course, it's easy to point out the white guys, but I mean, talent and lyrical skill should be a necessity, in my opinion, if this is your profession, When you said that 5 out of the 10, rap albums were by white artists, do you remember what those were? Because I can't seem to look it up. It was Iggy, G-Eazy, Hoodie Allen, and Mike Stud, and it was one other. I can't remember. This was a good bit ago. This was about maybe a month ago. But those are, I think, a couple of the names. Even 4 out of 10 is pretty crazy, but I'm pretty sure there was one more.
Do you think that we're going to reach a point, let's say 50 years in the future, where, hip hop becomes what rock and roll has become. Rock and roll was originally, a black music, a black music art form. And these days it's like, almost like a novelty when you see a black rock artist.
Yes. I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and I grew up listening to blues and classic rock and all sorts of stuff like that. And I mean, it's really, it's tough to say. And of course I don't want to see that happen because that just, that would suck. And that, that's coming from a white guy. I hate to see in color, you know what I mean? I hate to separate things black, white, or other, you know what I mean? It's like, I try not to think of the world like that, but I also understand how the world works. But, you got, for every Eric Clapton, there's a Jimi Hendrix, and, they were both such amazing guitar players. It's not like one of them deserved to be in the limelight more, per se. They were both unbelievable guitarists, so it's hard to say. Obviously, I don't think that will happen, but, I mean, the last 3 years have been kind of crazy. They definitely have in that sense. And I would also like to point out that I was around before this, white explosion in hip-hop really started taking effect. I was like, I would say my first mixtape came out directly post Asher, and that was my first official tape. But that came out like right after, Asher Roth had the I Love College thing, and then, I basically was in the aftermath of that. And then to see what bothers me sometimes, and I'm not going to point out any names because, it is what it is, and I'm not mad at it, but I was definitely one of the first dudes to do this independently as a white guy, to really set up the touring, set up the merch. Like I helped at least write the blueprint for what's being done by so many artists right now. And, you see other people taking a run with it, and to see others get further has been frustrating at times, but has only made me want to work harder, and that led to making this album that right now is flying off the shelves, selling out everywhere. So I guess it was all a good thing in the end.
Well, if you're saying right now, there's, let's say almost half the albums are by white artists, right? When you look at the population of the U.S., it's mostly a white population. So as more of the population gets onto white rap artists and starts becoming more of a thing as opposed to kind of a rarity, the financials of it may just cause most record labels to just focus just on white artists because that's where the money is.
Yeah, I mean...
Do you see what I'm saying with this?
I definitely do. I mean, if you just even when Eminem first came out, you look at the crowds. But I think hip-hop in general, as far as like paying consumers, statistics have shown that white people tend to be out buying hip-hop the most, statistically. And I guess, I don't know, I think there's got to be something about, parents... being like, oh, well, he's just a white kid. I mean, it's fucked up, but I mean, maybe that's part of the thought process. But I mean, I would hate to see that happen for this avalanche of white rappers to really, take over. But like I said, man, it shouldn't be a white or black thing. It's if you're dope or not. And I think there's definitely some that have snuck in that are not dope enough to make the cut. And that goes for both sides, black, white, and that's really my stance. I'm strictly from if you're nice, you're nice. That's that standpoint,
What's your take on G-Eazy?
G-Eazy's cool. G-Eazy's definitely cool. I know him, and I was chilling with him at South by Southwest. We had a nice conversation. I respect how he's done it. He signed he basically, we were at a similar level, and he took a different approach, and I went the independent route. And I'm not, you can't be mad at someone for getting huge off of signing a deal like that. That just is what it is. That's what you do it for. I chose to take a different path, and I think we're both gonna be successful artists in the years to come. So I got nothing but love for G.
I think with G-Eazy, I think that his imaging really has kind of put him in sort of a different space because the whole kind of James Dean look is very left field when it comes to hip hop.
Absolutely. He's got a very definitive look and style, and that's dope. I'm kind of, as far as I mean, it goes like stylistically, both apparel and musically. I've always been, like I said, so ADD. I'm all over the place. My album is so eclectic, and I think this is the first time it really was cohesive enough to work. But no one's ever been able to put a finger quite right exactly on what I am. You know what I mean? No one's been able to define me in a sentence. Oh, he's that guy, you know, and like fill in the blank. And I think because of that, that's kind of confused people, and you know, it's not that the music hasn't been there, it's just that it hasn't been one defined sound, which personally I prefer, because there's music for everybody, all different types of hip-hop listeners on this album and previous projects. Yeah, I mean, if you do have a definitive style and people can like literally pinpoint you and define what you do, then it will help, because the general public just likes to do that, you know?